You know, there's a lot of bullshit in the world about do what you're passionate. The proper path in life is in your 20s, when you're most excited about life. I've had every single question before, but I've never had that question before.
That's the whole point.
What I would do, stab them in the back.
Robert Greene is the world's leading expert on power. His books like The 48 Laws of Power and The 33 Strategies of War sold millions of copies and was so influential that they were banned in several American prisons.
Robert Greene?
Yes?
Thank you for coming to the job interview.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I'm a little bit nervous, but I hope I get the job.
To start, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I've been a writer of books for about 24, 26, 27 years now. I also work as a consultant in the States for people in sports and entertainment and business and politics. People come to me for advice on various problems. You know, my parents are Jewish, and traditionally they kind of push you into like becoming a lawyer or a doctor, because that's sort of the professions where you can make a lot of money, and parents are always concerned about their kids making money and being secure and stuff. They equate happiness with security, which is a bad idea in general. And so they were kind of hoping I would go into law, you know, in college.
Which you probably could have been amazing at?
I probably would have been good defense lawyer or something, yeah, I think so. Or a good prosecutor, yeah. I kind of have that aggressive edge to me that would have been a good lawyer. But I was like a rebel from day one, you know. First of all, I had really long hair. I was kind of a hippie, you know, I took drugs, I was reading lots of books and things. I wasn't interested in that
Not a
world.
law firm type.
No. And so they realized early on they can't control me. So they kind of let go, and they were good parents about it. But it's a very common scenario, and a lot of people come to me with that problem. Robert, I'm 38 years old, I'm a lawyer, I'm miserable. I know I should have gone into music. I'm in the wrong profession. Help me, please, I'm desperate, right? When you've gone on the wrong path in life, it's not just something you know, it's something you feel in your body, right? You're just uncomfortable, you're just unhappy, you don't sleep so well, you don't feel comfortable in yourself. There are physical signs, and there can even be illnesses that you develop as well. I think a lot of illnesses have a psychological origin to them. And being in the wrong career and having a job where you have to show up every day and it kind of kills your soul, it can have effects on your body. So recognize that you're in the wrong career. You've come to me, that's a great sign that you're uncomfortable, you're frustrated. And you know, there's a lot of bullshit in the world about do what your passion and all that. And I don't believe in people just dropping their careers and becoming a rock musician or writing poetry or anything. You have to make a living, you have to be practical, but let's go through a process and find out where you went wrong, what you were meant to do, and how, instead of like veering suddenly to becoming a rock star while you're in law, how we can kind of carve a path this direction towards music, towards maybe something that is more what you connect to. How do we now carve a path there?
Or you can combine the law and the rock star and work on Johnny Depp's case, and then you kind of get a little bit of both.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about your weakness that you have identified for yourself. One thing, one area that you're weak at, and what you do to improve in that particular area.
I don't know how to make things with my hands. My father was an amazing builder. He worked in the Navy, fixing airplanes in World War II. He could just make anything, and he never taught me how to do it.
Oh no!
Whenever I tried to build like a model plane or something, he'd get impatient. He'd finish the whole thing for me. So I can't do anything with my hands. So to be honest with you, I'm a failure in life except for writing. You ask me my weakness, we could spend all day talking about them. There's so many things I'm not good at.
Yeah, but when I was a kid, I would always get annoyed with jigsaw puzzles. Like nothing would make me more frustrated, especially when, like, you know, relatives, family who don't know me very well. It's like, would you get a kid? And I don't know, jigsaw puzzles. And I would just, I cannot tolerate that. And Legos, it just wouldn't work for me at all. So I just prefer like soldiers and stuff.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
I don't know. There's something about just patience.
I know it's a patience thing, but I have the patience for writing a very complicated book. mental,
You definitely do, yeah.
but I don't have hand patience.
Yeah.
You
What
know?
about your greatest professional achievement then? You've had a long career.
Writing the 48 Laws of Power. Considering where I was at the time, essentially I was in my 36 years old, 37. I had no success in life. I had those 60 different jobs. I was working in Hollywood, and I would honestly say I was quite a kind of a failure in Hollywood. I couldn't quite figure out my niche, and I wasn't very good at screenwriting. I was very depressed, and I didn't know where I was going. And I met this man in Italy in 1995 who was a book packager, and it's like a book producer. And one day we were walking in the city of Venice, Italy, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, along the quays of Venice. Sun was shining, it was June, it was beautiful, everything was great. And he said, Robert, he's a Dutchman, I'm not going to imitate his accent. He said, Robert, do you have any ideas for a book? And I was in a good mood. I just sort of improvised an idea about power. And
But you didn't say 48 Laws of Power at that time.
No, I didn't. But I said, we live in these fancy worlds with all these, technology, and didn't really have the internet then, but, all this technology around us. People pretend to be so progressive, so 20th century at the time, but in fact, we're actually just the same as people were in Renaissance Italy, in the time of Machiavelli. We have Cesare Borgias walking among us. They're not as violent, they're not cutting people's heads off, but they're doing other similar things. And I told him a story to illustrate it. I told him a story of this man who was Louis XIV's finance minister, who threw a party in Louis XIV's honor to ingratiate himself and get himself perhaps promoted to the position of prime minister. This party was probably the greatest party that ever in the history of mankind. The next day he was thrown into prison, and he spent his life in prison. But the reason he threw him in prison was because people were liking him more than the king. He outshone the master, right? It's the story that opens the 48 Laws of Power. And this man Yost, he goes, that's fantastic, Robert, you write the book, and I will pay you. Write half the book, and I will pay you out of my own money to write that, and then we'll sell it. And so, coming from where I was to then writing that book, which was like my ticket out of misery, it was literally the difference between almost being suicidal to like having this journey that I'm on now. That I pulled it off. I wrote that damn book in 2 years, researched it, created a book that you may hate, but there's nothing else out there like it. It looks different. I can't even imagine how I did it, but that's by far my greatest achievement.
I think sometimes, especially now, and I see it in myself too, people are judging and like tallying up the score so quickly. Like, okay, we're out of university, 5 years on, who's doing what? Like, who's the winner, who's the loser? Oh, I'm at this, I'm at the law firm, and like, oh, I don't know, packaging stuff at like a supermarket, and it seems like it's clear, right? Who's got it and who hasn't. But it's, we just getting started, so it's like you never know.
Well, a lot of very successful people in life had a late start. It's not completely unique that when you're in your mid-30s or your early 40s, you figure it out, I tell people that the proper path in life is in your 20s, when you're most excited about life and you're young and you're creative and you have all this juice and energy. That's when you should be having fun, but also trying different things out and discovering what you're good at and developing skills and not worrying about the future and not worrying about money. And then the second you hit the age of 30, it can be 29 if you want. All right, time to get serious now. I've learned all these skills. What can I do with them? What can I do that's unusual, that's me, that's creative?
I'm kind of concerned about this. I read this quote somewhere about early success and how early success is one of the worst things that can possibly happen. Because you have succeeded for some reason, but you don't have the skills to maintain it. And then when you fail, basically you don't know how to fail. So if you fail, it can hit you like really hard. And that's something that I think my parents talk a lot to me about. And I wouldn't say that I've succeeded, but I feel like things kind of lined up for me in my early to mid-20s to like kind of shoo, and it's kind of working. And I'm really scared that when it stops, working, it definitely will. At some point it will. I will not know how to deal with it, so I'm always paranoid with my business and like with my content and stuff. That, like, I need to make sure that if it fails, I'm okay, and like everyone kind of I'm taking care of is okay, and it doesn't just go into a disaster.
You're 28?
I'm 26.
26?
Yeah.
And you're in advertising? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I run a creative agency.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we work on social impact projects with
wow.
like big organizations and brands.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I left my consultancy job, and then everyone was like really worried about me.
Yeah.
You know, I have like I moved to the UK. I have 4 university degrees. I went into a big firm.
Fantastic.
Everything was going like good, and I wasn't miserable. I was I was okay. Like it was fine.
Yeah.
It was creative work and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna start a business, and everyone's like, that's not necessarily a good idea. And then for some reason, it's like we scored our first big client, second big client, and then the social media started taking off.
Fantastic.
And everything just kind of worked out. And I'm like, okay, how do I prepare myself to eventually and just come out of it without being destroyed?
Well, the thing is, so the good thing about being young is you've got all this energy and your mind is really open. The bad thing about being young is you're more emotional. You have less control over your emotions. So you're more prone to feeling fear. When you get to my advanced age, you don't give a shit about anything anymore. It doesn't matter, you don't care if you're facing death. I've been through so many bad experiences. I almost died a couple of years ago. I don't care. Whereas when I was 26, I cared too much about things. So the main thing for someone in your situation to realize is failure is the best thing that can happen to you, right? Your business cratering in 2 years, if it happens, I don't want it to happen, would be a blessing in disguise. Because you need to be tested. You can't have just the slow rise to the top, everything great happening for you. Because you're never going to develop inner strength, you're never going to develop fortitude.
Can there be an exception? Maybe I'm the one person for whom there is never a down? No.
No, but why fear the downs? Welcome the down parts. I was somebody who was, I'm not super athletic, I've never been athletic, but mountain biking, swimming, hiking, running, you name it, I did it. To suddenly, you see how I struggle. How do I deal with that? It's teaching me how to be patient. It's teaching me about my limitations.
Okay, amazing. I think one thing that threw me off a lot was the war. Starting
for
at
sure.
home. Like, for example, that came.
Throws everybody off.
Yeah, it wasn't completely unexpected, but the gravity, I could never imagine that something like this would happen.
Where's your family?
In the south of Ukraine. Another thing that I wanted to ask is if you've had a time in your life where you've had this like constant worry, like something is always at the back of your mind, any way to keep on doing what you do best, keep on kind of growing, like developing as a person, as a professional, without having that crippling thought always dig at your focus, and also feeling bad if you feel good, that kind of thing, you know?
Well, you know, I've never been through anything like that because there's nothing comparable that I can think of. So I can only use my powers of imagination. And I have had some Ukrainian people. I remember a young woman contacted me who's sort of similar thing. She lives in Florida and she's got her family in Ukraine. She says, I just feel terrible. I feel guilty. I'm running this business. Things are good. It's Florida. The sun is shining. What should I do? And basically I told her, do the most that you can for the Ukraine without like, you know, not 24/7, but raising money, you know, raising awareness, trying to get people here in the States to donate more money, to think about it more. Just do everything that you possibly can, and then you won't feel guilty. But the thought that I could do more and here I'm enjoying myself, I don't think you should have that because it's going to wear on you. And this is a kind of moment where it shouldn't be about you, really.
If you could have a dinner with any historical figure, dead or alive, who would it be?
Niccolo Machiavelli, sort of my patron saint. People have this idea that he was this really evil man, and it's not true at all. I would love to meet him, and I'd love to talk about him, because what I admire about Machiavelli was his mind. He was so clear about things. He could analyze power in a way that nobody in that up until then had ever done before.
What about some borscht with President Zelensky? Would you?
Oh, you mean if I could have a dinner with a live person? Sure. Yeah. I would love to meet. I almost met him when I was in Kiev. People were trying to arrange it.
Didn't happen?
No, it didn't happen. The man who brought me over was a very wealthy real estate developer in Kiev, Arthur Mikrian. I can't pronounce his last name. You've heard of him?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And he knows President Zelensky, and he was trying to set it up, but I was only there for like 3 days, and it didn't happen. I wish. This might be very grandiose of me, but I often think that if I kind of identify with him. Like that's how I would be if I were suddenly thrust into this role as a leader in a wartime thing. Kind of just being human, being himself, but also being a great leader as well.
For sure. I think for us it's like we can see that the fact that the president and the team are coming from the media background is really, really helpful, because this is when we need the world to rally behind Ukraine.
Very much.
And no one is better at getting people to care through digital media than President Zelensky, I think.
Yeah.
So we got lucky in that sense, even though his popularity was dropping pretty quickly right before the war.
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Next question.
Sure.
If you were a pizza delivery guy, how would you benefit from a pair of scissors?
I can honestly tell you I've never had that question before. I've had every single question before repeated a million times, but I've never had that question before.
That's the whole point.
How would I benefit?
If you were a pizza delivery guy, how would you benefit from having a pair of scissors with you?
Now, these are a pair of scissors while I'm delivering pizza, or is this just in general? Because everybody has a pair of scissors.
You just kind of are delivering pizza, and then you find a pair of scissors in your pocket. How can you benefit from these scissors in that situation?
Well, you could do one of two things. You could find somebody that you really, really loathe, that everybody loathes, and you could stab them in the back and get a huge media splash. You don't kill them, but you stab them hard in the back, and then you yell something like they did in ancient Roman times when you're assassinating the dictator. I forget what the word is, semper tyrannis, something or other. Hic tempus semper tyrannis. So this is the fate of all tyrants. You yell that, you get cameramen to see you photographing this, you're on the cover of the Evening Standard, etc. You've killed somebody or you've injured somebody that everybody hates.
Yeah. Then
now you can go back in front of the press and tell your story. And yes, you're going to be in prison for a while, but you're going to come out a celebrity, and you're going to write a book, you're going to get a great book deal, and then you're going to get, you become a TV presenter, everyone's going to love you. So you've spent 2 years in prison, who cares?
Yes, no big deal.
That's sort of maybe what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things you could do. You could cut out something really clever from the pizza pot, but that's too boring.
Yeah, that's too boring.
I want some real power in this world. So there are ways to injure somebody in the shoulder where it's not fatal. I had somebody explain this to me. Don't ask me why. It was somebody who worked with 50 Cent. But you can injure them. Sense. Wouldn't kill them, but it would definitely hurt, and you would, it would cause a lot of pain. But that's what I would do with my pair of scissors. And I talk in the book about attacking the most powerful person anywhere, and attaching your name to that attack is a way to kind of elevate your name and get a lot of attention. Very dirty way of getting to power, but
usually people just say kind of cut the pizza, but it's one of the best answers.
That's the first answer you've ever had like that?
During COVID, people used to say ring the bell so that there would not be like hygiene issues, not to touch. Anyways,
I'm sorry, my answer isn't quite that.
No, I think it's good. I was just gonna ask quickly about the rappers that you know. Yeah. I know that in the rap scene, 48 Laws of Power is pretty big. I've seen it mentioned a few times. Yeah. I mean, obviously, 50 Cent, who like made my childhood as in Ukraine. I didn't understand anything he was saying, but I just felt like this was my vibe. Any other rappers that you know? Anyone who reached out to you who like?
Sure, I've got a whole bunch of them. You know, through 50, I met a lot of them. I met Eminem, I met Kanye, but Drake kind of reached out to me, and for a while, I met him a few times, and for a while, he was going to do a TV version of the 48 Laws that kind of fell out.
Yeah.
I met Rick Ross. He's interviewed me.
Wow.
I'm in touch right now with Jeezy. Do you know Jeezy?
Of course.
We're going to meet when I get back to LA. I think he doesn't want advice, but he just wants to meet me. I'm in touch with Lil' Kim.
Amazing. Next question. How would you test an elevator to see if it's working?
Well, I'd get in it and I'd press the number of the floor I wanted to go to. I mean, what kind of question is that?
What if it just doesn't work and falls down?
It falls down?
As in you're testing, it's the first time you're testing this elevator, so you just constructed it and you're at this like construction site, you just need to test if it's working. You would just get in there.
You mean that's my job?
No, it's more like your strategy of testing it would be to get in it first and then press a button and then just kind of see.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's just like a lot of people say like put a chair in there, press a button, like see if it works.
In case it like falls down?
Yeah, like there is a scenario.
I mean, that would be quite a way to go. You know, you get in there, you're on the 31st floor, you press the button and it just falls like 40 floors down to the very bottom and you're dead. But wow, what a ride you just had. I guess
you tested it and found out it's not functioning properly.
Yeah, but they have these things at these amusement parks. I don't know if they have it in the UK, but in the States, they have this amazing amusement park called Magic Mountain, which has the scariest rides on the planet. I used to love going there. They have this one ride called Free Fall. Yeah. You go up this elevator and you end up in like an elevator, and then suddenly the elevator goes like this. Then you look down, and there's nothing below, and the elevator falls.
Oh,
you know, like the equivalent of 5 floors, and your heart's going. You're just having a ball. It's a blast, you know. So you know, it's a thrill ride. I enjoy it.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll take you there whenever you want. You know, I've taken people from England there, and they like, don't ever take me here again. That was the worst experience.
I mean, of course, in your case, that's not true. But if, let's say, you are a young guy who struggles to perhaps seduce women or men based on their preference, what's the first thing that you can do? So obviously in the Art of Seduction you outline different types of seducers, but I'm thinking just kind of before that, what's the first kind of step to take? You're seeing like you just cannot get laid or like get into relationships. I'm not asking about myself or you necessarily. Well, okay. Just someone asked me to ask this question. Okay. Basically to have better luck, what's like a simple thing that you can kind of start with?
Well, to understand that you're worrying about your ability to seduce, let's just put it in simpler terms, I'm trying to seduce women. Worrying about it and becoming so self-conscious and so self-aware is the worst thing that can happen to you. One of the most powerful techniques is what you talk about is coquetry, where you give the woman, in this case, the sense that you're into her, but maybe you're not that into her.
It's like hot and cold.
Yeah,
right?
And she's wondering, does he really like me? I think he likes me. Oh, yes, he likes me. Oh, no, he doesn't like me. She's thinking about you all the time. She becomes obsessed with you. It's very, very powerful technique.
I'm going to ask you if you can recognize which law that you have created or you have described in your book I'm using now. Okay? Make sense?
Right now?
Right now.
Appear absolutely insane. Well, you were trying to either use absence to create honor and respect, or you were creating, keeping people in suspended terror by making them not realize what you're going to do next.
Yes, it's law 16.
Or you were acting like the village idiot, you know, or like, I don't know, that's not a law. Play like a fool to play a sucker to catch a sucker. But I would say use absence to create honor and respect.
Yes, that's right. We were just thinking if we need to do this.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So
I'm glad you didn't choose crush your enemy totally.
Great. Do you have any question for me?
What would you do if you were walking down Oxford Street and you saw a kitchen knife on the curb, and a stranger came up to you and asked you if, you know, they'd just broken up with their girlfriend and they were thinking of committing suicide. Can you give me some advice to help me so that I don't go out and kill myself right now? What would you do?
I would secure the knife, make sure they don't get to that knife.
Well, they were heading towards that knife.
Yeah, but I would grab it. I would, because I'm quick. I'm actually very quick. So I would just grab it, and I'll be like, if it's a guy, I'll be like, okay, relax, like let's talk or something. I think I'll try to talk to him or her and be like, look, you know, life gets hard, but like let's chat about it. Let's maybe, while we chat about it, I'll call like the suicide hotline so that professionals can deal with it. But I wouldn't let him do it. But actually, if I've moved the knife, then I'm kind of aiding and abetting. Maybe, you know what, I won't touch the knife. Just let the chips fall where they fall. Okay. I mean, it's Oxford Street, so like, everyone's so busy, no one's gonna notice. That's.
Okay, and then they go and stab them, kill themselves, and then you're responsible for their death. Okay.
No, there was a mission to act, so I didn't actually interfere in the events. The thing is that if you, for example, move the knife a little bit, and then he slips and falls on the knife, then you can be liable.
Oh, that would never happen, though. Come on.
Yeah, but it can happen. Like
that's your law background talking there.
No, I would try to. For some reason, I think that I can persuade someone who is suicidal not to kill themselves, but I also understand that it's like not necessarily the case because I don't have the skills. But I can try.
Okay. All right.
But also, I wouldn't be on Oxford Street anyways.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you.